The titans of Silicon Valley, they faced a grilling from lawmakers today on Capitol Hill. That is the CEOs from Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google, all pressed on allegations of their unfair business practices, antitrust law violations, close ties with China, mounting evidence of anti-conservative bias. And here's a small sample.
I'll just cut to the chase. Big tech's out to get conservatives. That's not a suspicion. That's not a hunch. That's a fact. July 20th, 2020, Google removes the homepages of Breitbart and the Daily Caller. Just last night, we learned Google has censored Breitbart so much traffic has declined 99%. June 16th, 2020, Google threatens to demonetize and ban the Federalist.
There is either a manual component or there is not a manual component. Which is it?
For creating those lists, that process can involve manual portions.
Okay, great. Well, that is sort of the concern that I have. You've confessed that there is a manual component to the way in which you blacklist content.
Is there an ideological diversity amongst the content moderators?
Congressman, I don't think we choose to hire them on the basis of an ideology, but certainly we don't want to have any bias in what we do, and we wouldn't tolerate it if we discovered that.
And earlier today, the president tweeted, quote, "If Congress doesn't bring fairness to big tech, which they should have done years ago, I will do it myself with executive orders." And in Washington, it has been all talk, no action for years, and the people of our country, they're sick and tired of it. Here is reaction author of Firebrand, Congressman Matt Gaetz, and former ambassador and former acting director of the National Intelligence, who did a great service to this country, actually allowing us to see some truth about the deep state. You did a phenomenal job, sir. Thank you so much for what you did and being with us.
Thank you, Sean.
Rick, we'll start with you tonight. We're now learning a lot about these companies. Now, they have this liability protection if they're content providers, but once they begin editing, that liability protection would go away, and we see a lot of this going on more than we ever dreamed of. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's totally true. This is a decision that they've made. They're not trying to do anything but flip the script on citizen journalism. We have, for 225 years, beginning with Hartford Courant, had the media controlled by newspapers and newspaper editors. When the internet was invented, we flipped the script. We had citizens being able to question what the news was and put out their own stories. Now what we see is big tech roaring back. What they're trying to do, Sean, is take away the power of the citizen. And they're going to do it pretending like they're looking for facts. What they're doing is they're looking for opinion. They want to go back to controlling the news, and when you control the news, you control a whole society. So Washington politicians, they got to stop complaining, and they got to start doing something.
And Matt Gaetz, you were particularly poignant and powerful today in your arguments. I'd like to give you a chance to explain.
Here's the message to the president. Congress will not do anything on big tech because Congress is bought off by big tech. But we proved today that many of America's largest technology platforms are not acting in the best interest of our country. They've pulled out of deals, as Google has, with our own military to keep our service members safe. But then Google has no problem going and partnering with the Chinese military, of all folks. Even General Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that Google is directly benefiting the Chinese military. But it's not just that they're working with China, they're trying to turn our country into China. Google, in particular, is the most dangerous election interference organization in the world. Sundar Pichai was at a meeting where his top executive team said that they had to stop Donald Trump in 4 years and make his victory just a populist blip in history. And since then, he admitted that individuals can go and alter search and change things on blacklists so you don't see sites that are conservative, like The Federalist, The Daily Caller, Breitbart, and others that Mr. Jordan mentioned. And then also you saw, Mr. Pichai have to confess the fact that I really think there's an outcome that cannot be explained through these glitches where the conservative sites that we used to see in news are now starting to disappear. They want to control what you see so they can control what you think and how you act, and a free society must stand against this.
And shadow banning is real. I'll ask you both. Rick first.
Yeah, of course it's real. We've seen it over and over again, and we've got to have people that are more focused on this election. It's at less than 100 days. And we have too many people that are focused on the Russian propaganda problem of the past. And what we need to be able to do is recognize the Russians will always do propaganda like they have done at every election. But right now we have a problem in our own country with our own tech executives trying to put their thumb on the scale for this election. We got to do something about it.
20 last seconds, Matt.
Twitter shadow banned 4 members of Congress during the Russia hoax. Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, Devin Nunes, and Matt Gaetz. That wasn't a coincidence, Sean. And you know what? The Department of Justice should go and investigate these major tech platforms and prove that they are not biased. We've got enough smoke. There's definitely fire. And I think the Department of Justice needs to be a lot more active in this civil litigation.
They can't have the liability if they're going to be content editors. That liability doesn't exist for news organizations. They're deciding what content is good and what content is bad, and if they're going to make that determination, their liability protections should go away. That's the least of it, and the bias also is obvious. Thank you both.